stay here and you get 75. 7 o'clock?
We're ready. Nick is out of town tonight. So.
Oh, is he? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. 7 o'clock. Good evening, and I will call the Planning and Zoning Commission for April 9th meeting to order. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. All right, and roll call.
Yes, Commissioner Arkin,
Here.
Commissioner Eisenman, Commissioner Moss,
Here.
Chair Donaldson,
Present.
and Commissioner Pilch is absent this evening.
Right. The next item on the agenda is our consent calendar. Tonight, we have two items on the consent calendar. The first is design review and a parking exception for a project at 1105 Key Route. And the second one is for a fence project, a fencing detail at 1109 Washington. I believe the latter one is within my radius of conflict or whatever it's called, and so I need to recuse myself from that one, and I haven't even opened the file. So, is there anyone on the commission who would like to pull either of these items for further discussion?
I have a question on the second item, but maybe since you need to recuse, we could just take them separately and...
Yeah, let's do that.
Take them separately? Okay. Okay, the first item then is 1105 Key Route. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to pull this item from the agenda and make sure the commission discusses this item? I see no one. All right. Then I will ask for a motion to approve consent calendar item A, which is a planning application for design review and a parking exception at 1105 Key Route.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Moss seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. So I think, Howard, this is directed to you, actually. So your project has been approved on consent at 1105 Key Route. All right. So someone else, let's see, Nick's not here. Someone else take care of this, and I guess I'll leave the room for the 1109 Bush.
I'll go ahead. I mean, you want
Go
me to-
ahead, Phil.
Go ahead. I'm out of practice. Okay, so discussion now for item PA 13-019, fence details for 1109 Washington Street. You had a question?
Just a question for staff. I wanted to make sure that the site plan illustrated was in alignment with what we approved.
That's a yes.
This is the site plan that was approved by the commission on October 30th of last year. Just to quickly refresh your memory, when you approved that, with that approval came a fence along the Keynes Avenue side, as well as two sliding gates. It was configured in that way so that outdoor play space could be accommodated for the children who will be enrolled in this after-school program. And of course, the handicap accessible parking is outside of the gate and unobstructed. So this was the site plan, as I mentioned. The fence detail is called out here on the east side of the property. And the south side, it's set back 26 feet from Washington Street. And this is the detail. So it's a 6-foot tall horizontal slat fence with some decorative metal and a proposed planting scheme.
Okay, great.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Because I want to discuss this one a little bit further myself, and it has one bike rack. I don't think that's kind of what we had in mind for this site. I thought we were thinking more bike racks.
If I remember correctly, weren't they putting some bike storage inside out of the?
As a condition of approval, they were required to provide it inside as well as outside.
Do we know how many are inside?
That was actually one of the plan check comments that I provided to them, and what we received, they actually didn't call it out, and so where they are now, they have to do that as part of their plan revisions.
The other comment I had was the thought of the two triangular tree wells, is putting those on the outside of the fence instead of the inside of the fence, so that it breaks up that long wall of fence there. Thoughts on that, Ida?
Is that immediately adjacent to the sidewalk?
It certainly appears to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure we want to be taking pavement out of the sidewalk.
No, these are the tree wells that are there. The triangular ones that are inside the parking.
Yeah.
That the fence goes by.
Yeah?
Why don't we put the fence around those so those are facing the street? Then you don't have that one huge wall of fence.
Well, they are breaking it up with the open steel fencing at those tree wells. I don't know, I think it's more difficult. You end up adding more corners and whatnot.
I'm wondering
but-
if the steel or they're prefabricated pieces that they're trying to fit into this design. Would you know if they're
My
if they're being
guess is
custom?
that's probably the case. They're probably prefab.
I know, it's a thought, because I really don't like seeing 100 and something feet of fence.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's broken up, it's still a flat wall.
Or in this case, 56 feet.
Or 56 feet, plus the return on the front.
Uh-huh.
Is the applicant here?
They actually are not here tonight.
5613,
I guess the way that it's broken up with the different materials is sufficient for my mind in this case, that you will see the trees and everything through those more open areas. And it's not, the full length of the depth of the lot there. I hear what you're saying though, Phil. I agree with you that, an unbroken length of the same material would be too much.
well, it's all in the same plane also. Anyway, it was a thought. I'll entertain a motion. if
Would you
there's
be
one.
willing to approve it as it is, but also let them know that we'd be willing to approve it if they were to reconsider it as, as it was discussed by Commissioner Moss?
So,
We approve both options.
Yeah.
You can make the motion.
Okay. I move to approve planning application, sorry, I'm looking up here, 13-019, fence detail for 1109 Washington Street. Further adding that we would be willing to approve a second option, which would zigzag the fence around the trees.
second?
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's passed. You can let them know it's 14-day appeal period. After 14 days, the decision becomes final. Doug?
I'll trade places with him. Oh, wait, I'll stay for public comment and then trade places.
Cornell is near you.
Yep.
Okay. You didn't eat all the free food back there, did you? Okay, back to Chair Donaldson.
Okay. All right. So.
Up to number
I think the
5.
Next item is item 5 on the agenda. This is a public comment period. Anyone who would like to address the commission on anything that's not on our agenda? If so, please come forward. Okay.
Actually, I have something on the agenda. It's the last item. But since I was here for also the first item, is it possible that I could move that up? This has to do with window mullions on a project on Ordway Street. Anyway, a request.
We had this happen last meeting, and we did not reorder the agenda as it is.
I'm not 100% sure I need to be here for it, but if it's controversial, I certainly will stay.
Okay.
In this case, he's addressing a letter that he's provided. And I would be surprised if anyone came forward to protest his letter.
I don't think so. So I would be open to a motion then to reorder the agenda to bring item
Let's close the public hearing first.
a new 7B forward, 7A forward. Is there a second to that?
Well, let's close the public hearing first.
Close the public. Is there anyone else who wants to address the commission on public comment? This is on something not on the agenda? Oh,
I just want to request that I could go ahead of him, just like he requested to go ahead of me. I mean, I don't want to win here all night either, but it is
Yeah.
what it is.
yeah.
Which one's yours?
I mean, it's disrespectful of the process to let him get up.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
The only thing about his is it's a letter about a window, where I think you have a full project. But what project is yours?
It's your decision.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 1350.
All right.
Well, Howard,
I'll move that we deal with Mr. McEnany's item 7A immediately.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so let's deal with 7A then. This is a letter from Howard. Is there a staff report on this at all, on this item?
I can give you just a brief overview. You looked at 108 Ordway, which is a project of Mr. McNenny's, a second-story addition last fall. You approved it when the project came in for plan check. The window details had been changed to include mullions, which was not part of the original approval. So as part of the plan check comments, we indicated that there was an inconsistency between the approved plans and then the building permit submittal, and Mr. McNenny has submitted the letter requesting this change be made to the plans
to allow mullions.
to allow the mullions, yes.
Muntins.
Hmm?
They're muntins.
Muttons and mullions and tigers and bears, oh my.
I think just with the clarification from Howard that those are not sandwiched between the glass, but they're actual applied, either full divided lights or simulated divided lights. Yeah, but not just between the glass, but actually on the surface. Okay. I can approve this.
Is there anyone we should open a little public hearing, see if there's anyone else in the audience tonight who wants to address this item, this issue about the window mullions? All right. Seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing. Any other comments from commissioners?
Staff, do we need a motion, or is that enough discussion for you to move
I
forward?
think they'll feel comfortable with the motion since it was approved a certain way.
Yeah, I think if you go
It's-
ahead and make a
It's a
motion.
little bit ambiguous, but I think
Yeah.
it was brought to us
So
because it
I'll-
was
I'll-
ambiguous. So I
I'll-
think we should have a motion.
I'll move approval of the revised window design that was presented tonight
Okay.
with the muttons and mullions design.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. No problem. That's good. Okay.
But there's a 14-day appeal period.
There is an appeal period.
Mr.
There's
Chair,
also,
I'm-
Howard, an appeal period on the other item on the consent calendar, too. That is subject to appeal as well. Yeah, you're aware of that, I think. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, we have dispensed with that, then. Let's go back to follow the agenda, then. The next item is 6A, which is additional design review and second unit at 1111 Cornell.
And Mr.
Back
Chair,
to
I'm
us.
recused on this item.
Oh, yes, right.
I'll be back.
Okay. Okay, we continue to have a quorum. So let's see, is there a staff report on this?
Yes.
Ann?
This application was continued from the March 26th commission hearing. to a date certain of this evening. The applicant is seeking design review approval for a two-level addition at 1111 Cornell. The subject lot is 5,000 square feet with an existing 959 square foot home that contains 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The existing home was built in 1915. The applicant is proposing a rear two-level addition, which will include a second unit on the lower level, 582 square feet in area, as well as a bedroom and bathroom on the upper level of the residence, and additional family room space and a deck. Altogether, this will result in a 5-bedroom, 4.5-bathroom home, 2,550 square feet in area. 3 off-street parking spaces are provided in the attached garage. There were quite a number of changes that were provided as part of the plan submittal. The latest plans that were included in your packet and posted online were submitted on April 3rd. The applicant also included a letter outlining the design modifications. This includes a new landscape plan with bay-friendly plantings throughout the entire property. There's now a bay window detail at the rear of the home to mirror the bay detail in the front of the home. The driveway width has been reduced by 2 feet 10 inches. There's now a canopy over the second unit entrance, as well as a separate side yard for the second unit. There are concrete paths around the perimeter of the property. The deck has been relocated to face into the rear yard. The hand railings and post, for the front porch have been redesigned. The family room has been expanded beyond the existing north wall and will have a window to match the front elevation. Previously, there was a second bedroom in the second unit, which has been eliminated. There is now a window on the south elevation to provide more light into the reconfigured second unit. And the family room area on the upper level has been slightly reduced in size. The applicant, from your previous review to now, had worked with the next-door neighbor to resolve some issues related to privacy concerns, in particular the deck and the window placement on the north elevation. This resulted in the relocation of the deck further into the rear yard, and also a proposed planting scheme. You can see it here on the site plan. There will be a privacy hedge along the property line as part of the landscaping. And with that, we recommend approval of the project. Certainly, I can answer any questions you have. I don't see the applicant here yet, so I don't know how far into the discussion you want to go.
Okay.
Do you know if the applicant's planning on attending?
I assume so, and I certainly didn't hear otherwise.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think probably I'll open the public hearing anyway, and we can then talk about it and see if we really need to have the applicant. So since it is coming back to us for the second time, and the applicant made a presentation the first time. Okay. All right, so I'll open the public hearing on this item. And is anyone in the audience who'd like to address the commission on 1111 Cornell?
I don't want to address it. I'd just like to scroll through the
Why, you
plan.
should come to the microphone, that'd be great.
I'd just like to review the whole plan as submitted, since he had changed it a few times. This doesn't include every page of the plan. It doesn't include the north elevation. It doesn't include, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Here you go.
there's the north elevation.
Yeah, I mean, I really, though I do have general issues with it being disproportionate that I expressed it the last time, the applicant has worked with me to resolve the issues. I will say that it's resulted in the deck being twice as large, which was my first concern. Though he has put up the privacy deck, screen, which I appreciate. But, my complaints have resulted in the family room being pushed out closer to me and the deck being twice as large.
Yeah.
That said, he has removed the ivy, and I give him credit for working with me.
I noticed that, yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's good.
my support is in not heavily protesting it. I understand legally it's within the limits, but I still think, a 25 square foot plus house, it dwarfs my 1,100 square foot house, and
Yeah.
but I understand it's within the legal bounds. So I really don't have a ton.
Since these are recorded, didn't hear you identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Aaron Levin. I'm the neighbor on the north.
There you
I
go.
live at 1107 Cornell.
1107, right.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, good, thank you. Please come forward.
My name's Sarah Levin. I also live at 1107 Cornell. I noticed in the landscaping conditions that there's a street tree requirement, which is
Yeah.
great. Currently, it's concrete, so I was wondering if part of that requirement means that concrete in that curb cut
Yeah, that's
will-
up to the city arborist, but typically
Yeah.
that's what happens.
that
They have
concrete
to-
will be removed.
Have to, if the arborist says a street tree should go here and can go here, then they would cut out the concrete in that median, at least a space big enough
At
for the
least a
tree
space
hole.
it'd be great if the whole,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
whole concrete
Yeah.
would be replaced with landscaping, definitely.
That might be a good conversation to have with your neighbor.
Yeah.
See if they'd be,
definitely,
while the tree's going in, if they'd be willing to go ahead and pull
Yeah.
up, make
Okay,
a
yeah,
landscape
I'll definitely do
opportunity.
that. All right, thank you.
Yep. All right. Personally, I think I have some questions and comments for the applicant or for the architect, and if they're not here yet, I'm not sure how we can address that. Should we
Okay, I move we table this and bring it up
move
further.
and table it till a little later?
Right.
I'm not sure that the applicant for our next item is here.
He's not.
I don't see Jason.
The next item is, would be Jason Caldas, I think 1618 Sonoma. Yeah, okay.
Did they not get the memo tonight?
I sent out all my
No,
emails. on Friday.
just
Yeah,
really
yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
I got notified for the next one, so I know that they went out. I have to recuse myself from the next item, and I did receive my postcard,
Yeah.
so
Which is the next item?
it's
Yeah.
on Sonoma.
On
Oh,
Sonoma.
Sonoma, because I
That's
got to
right.
recuse myself from.
We should bring David.
So are we going to go ahead? and-
Actually,
and
can we ask the members of the audience what items they're here for?
Are you here for an item on the agenda tonight?
I'm sorry, why don't you come on up and talk?
I'm here for 1357.
Marin,
Oh,
okay, all right.
Yeah, the designer is out of the country, so I'm just sitting in meeting.
Okay.
So you're, okay, all right.
And young
that's
lady,
good.
you're here for school?
I'm here for a class, yes, geography class.
Okay,
Should have told us, we would have had it more entertaining.
The Albany Public Works, that's supposed to be on I forget what street it is, but near
Is
the
it
bay.
the maintenance center on
Maintenance
Cleveland
Center,
Avenue?
yes.
Well, at the last hearing, we had a discussion to review the preliminary architectural plans for that.
Okay.
I can make those available to you if you're interested.
Also, the meeting is on, you can
And the meeting is
download it.
also online.
Okay, is
Yeah.
it a video or?
It's a video.
Thank you.
okay.
Welcome.
All right. Well, so you're representing the architect tonight then?
Let's go ahead and grab Doug.
And the
And,
applicant.
Actually,
Doug, let's grab.
I see
Let's get
Jason's in the lobby.
Oh, Jason's in the lobby.
Let me check.
Are they? Okay, all right, that'd be great.
What's that nightmare?
Is that the architect for which item?
The next one.
16.
Okay,
Okay.
well, good. You've walked in just in time.
So I'm going to recuse myself due to the location of my home.
Yeah, so David will come back, switching around here. So we have tabled further discussion on the item ahead of you because the architect and applicant is not present not right now. So we're glad that you're here, and we're going to move on then to what is it? It's 1618 Sonoma. Am I right on that? 1618 Sonoma. All right. So this is for design review and a conditional use permit. We'll start out then with a staff report.
Yeah. The applicant is seeking design review and conditional use permit approval for a second-story addition at 1618 Sonoma. The subject site is a 4,620 square foot lot with a single-story, 1,474 square foot residence. The home has three bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and was built in 1940. The applicant is proposing to add a second story, approximately 590 square feet in area, that will include a master bedroom, bathroom, as well as an upstairs family room. The maximum building height will increase to 24 feet 10 inches. Altogether, this will result in a 2,064 square foot, 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home. There are 2 off-street parking spaces which are provided. One is in the detached garage at the rear of the property, and one is in the driveway. The conditional use permit is required to extend the non-conforming wall on the east side of the property, which is approximately 2 feet off of the property line. The home will maintain the same craftsman appearance, and the existing footprint is not proposed to change. One thing to note, the homes on either side of the property both have second-story additions. 1616 Sonoma was constructed in 1999, and I believe it was designed by the project architect. And then in 2005, the home at 1620 Sonoma also was added to. So here is a rendering of the proposed addition. You can see that the architect is carrying forward the same gable roofline details on the second-story addition. The vent detail will also be replicated, and borrowing from this really lovely bay detail, they are adding a similar bay detail on the second story. The addition will be set back 9 feet from the face of the existing building, and this area will include the new stairs and platform storage area. As I mentioned, the architect has worked closely to borrow from the existing architecture of the home to create a very cohesive appearance with the existing home. And with that, staff recommends approval of the project. Certainly, I can answer any questions, and the project architect is here as well.
Any questions of staff? Seeing none. All right. Would the architect like to make a few comments to the commission?
Sure. And Jason Caldis, architect for Helen Chen and Edwin Park, who are the owners. Edwin is here tonight. Anne covered most of the points I would have made. I think in the interest of keeping your meeting short, I will just say that the one thing that we looked at very carefully was to make sure that the uphill neighbor whose views might be diagonally across this property would be preserved. Edwin met with the neighbors, showed them the extent of that, and by how we positioned the addition sort of in the middle of the existing upper floor, it allowed for the continuation of a diagonal vista in that kind of southwesterly direction. Right. I think that was the primary thing. And then the other odd thing is that we are adding to an existing non-conforming side yard. The house is a little bit skewed to the property line, and as a result, in order to get venting windows, we have that little recess in the upper story, but we don't let that recess kind of travel through to the front. We don't show it off. Yeah. We try to hide it, and that gets us venting windows. We don't have to stress Dave Henderson out at all about specialty glazing, and the owners get to have light and air and ventilation. So I think those are the exceptional aspects of the project, and everything else I think Anne covered very well.
Quick question. Questions, Jason?
Yeah, I do. Your longitudinal section shows a pretty thick ceiling to floor, and then what appears to be fairly tall ceilings on the upper level. And, I don't find it looking out of proportion on the front facade, but the west facade, the space between the main floor window heads and the upper floor sills just seems a little bit out of proportion. I just wondered if you needed all of that thickness, or if we might be able to
So while we haven't done the construction documents, typically what we do is we nest those floor joists up above the ceiling joists, and we usually have a plate that we use to help level it. We'll look at that very carefully to see what the result is. But I think we've done the same kind of construction assembly that we typically do on these second stories. It's a single plate on top of the ceiling joists and then floor joists. And I'm pretty sure that we planned for 2x10 floor joists, and that gives us 3.5 by 9.5 parallels where we're going to need the beams to span. And so I think I've minimized that. With regard to the plate height on the upper floor, I think we did that because the lower floor does have tall ceilings. The lower floor is a taller ceilinged house, and they wanted to enjoy that on the upper
So
floor
what
also.
kind of dimension are we
I think it's
looking
9
at?
feet. I think it's 9 feet. And so the ultimate change in ridge to ridge is 10 feet. I think that's correct. Yeah, the ridge to ridge is 10 feet.
Right.
So I think that's how it ends up. You have an inch and a half of the shim or plate. You have a 9.5-inch joist, 3/4 ply, and 3/4 finished floor. So I think that's 1 foot, and then the ceilings being 9 feet. Plate heights, I think that's how you get the 10. So that's and that's what the drawing shows.
And as I noted in my asking my question, I don't think it's out of proportion on the front, but maybe you want to consider a lower windowsill on the west side or something.
I think one of the things that happens in these houses is on the lower floors, the historic window head height is 4 feet 6 inches. So the sill is low. And I have a lot of applicants, including the applicant here and the neighbors at 1616, who said no, they didn't want 4 foot 6 high windows. They've got small children. They wanted the window sills to be up higher. So we made them 4 foot high windows. So David notices everything. But our first design was with a 4 foot 6 high window. And it does change the perception of that spandrel, in a sense, between the head of the lower window and the sill of the next one. That 6 inches does add more, it adds more building.
Yeah, again, I don't think it's a deal breaker, it's just one I wanted to discuss.
And there is a window on the east side that you're reducing in size, I think. You're like a double window there, like
Yes.
maybe that would be in the dining room. I'm not sure.
No, that's in on the east side. It would be in the front bedroom of the two
Okay.
bedrooms, and because
Yeah.
we're borrowing space for the stair to ascend up there, the stair is taking a bite out of that front bedroom.
Okay.
And I spoke with Dave Henderson about whether or not we could move that opening to another position. In other words, could we slide it southerly? And he said, no, we have to, because of its existing nonconformity, less than 3 feet, we have to stay within the boundary of the existing opening. We can make it smaller within that boundary,
Okay.
but we couldn't
Okay.
make a new boundary.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
right.
So we did our best to get the
I see.
biggest
Yeah.
light and
I
air
wondered
and,
about that.
biggest
I-
egress.
I saw that window in the house when I was out there, and I wondered
Yeah.
about what was going on with that.
Well, and it's unfortunate because it's a newish window.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Any other
What
questions?
kind of window is it?
The existing window?
No, the one you're going to replace there in the same bedroom. Is it a casement?
It's a casement window.
It's a casement.
It's a casement window. Yeah, we otherwise wouldn't be able to get light and air to meet.
No other questions for Jason?
Thank you.
Okay. If we have others, we'll call you back up.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Then I'll open a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who would like to address the commission on 1618 Sonoma? Don't see anyone? I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. So who wants to start here?
I only have a handful of comments. As was noted in the staff report, it's similar in scale to its neighbors, both of which have received second-story additions of a actually very similar nature in this
Yeah.
case. And I think it's appropriate in character relative to the existing house, much of which remains in its front facade. I'll also note that the property to the east also received a conditional use permit for an extension of a non-conforming wall. So there's some precedent, and even if there wasn't, I think in this case it's warranted, and will complement the architect on the use of a little innie niche to accommodate windows. So noting all those, I'm happy to approve this item.
Bill, do you have any concerns or additional comments?
No, I don't. I'm desperately trying to remember which one of these staff reports had commercial reference in the findings. I thought it was this one, but it doesn't, it's not jumping out at me. But I don't remember what it was. I'll have to go back and look. It was minor, but it was.
I noticed an error in the staff report on this one, but I don't think it's significant. I jumped on the table of site regulations by district when I saw a lot coverage of 61%. And I looked, by the way I calculated it, actually would go from 35% to 38.7. So that was in the staff report. Be on page 7. And then,
I'm looking at the table.
It sounds like you're talking about the Marin, 61%.
oh, you're right,
Yeah.
I am. I have the wrong staff report right in front of me.
I-
I
there-
grabbed the wrong document.
Under, for.
My mistake.
Yeah, setbacks
My
and lot
mistake.
coverage. It's,
My mistake. Yep. No, this one's fine. I grabbed the wrong staff.
I remember what it was. Something about meeting ADA standards for one of the house designs tonight. I don't know which one it was, but it wasn't a big deal.
Okay.
Well, that'll be easy to do
Yeah.
at a single-family residential project.
Yeah. Okay, okay. So, all right, I notice that this project is over, would have an FAR of over .45, which brings us in our design guidelines into that sort of extra standard of asking for very high-quality design. When I was looking at the plans and looking at the site, I considered that in my thoughts about it. I think I like the front facade very much. I like the way that the new upstairs windows would replicate the bay windows down below, even with a little roof structure, and the little detailing that's existing up by the peak of the roof would be replicated on the second floor. So I thought of it from a design review point of view, of looking for a higher quality design, and I think that the project met that standard. Didn't have a problem with that. I have no problems with this project. I think it's very well designed. Phil, do you have or you're looking at the staff report still?
No, I'm fine.
You're fine.
I don't
All
really
right.
have any other
All right.
comments. I think.
Okay,
it's-
then I'll entertain a motion and then.
Certainly, I'll move approval of planning application 14-013, design review and conditional use permit at 1618 Sonoma Avenue, incorporating the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. There's no one opposed, and so your project's been approved, and there's a 14-day appeal period at which time someone could appeal this to City Council. But if is not appealed, then our decision is final, and you can work with staff to move forward with your project. Good luck. It's a very nice project. Thank you. Okay. Now we should get Stacy back. Okay. And Now, the other one that was sitting here. We, applicant for 1111 Cornell is not. Yeah.
No.
That's unfortunate. That's strange. Okay. So I think then I'll move on to the next item, which is 1357 Marin. Is there a staff report?
Before we go to the staff report, I'm going to recuse myself from this item
So you are recused on this one?
because of
Okay.
distance.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I do have an extra set of drawings if anybody wants.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah. Nice size set, thank you. Okay. Ann?
Yes. The applicant is seeking design review approval for a second-story addition located at 1357 Marin. The subject site is a 4,600 square foot lot with an existing 1,112 square foot, two-bedroom, one-bathroom home. The addition is just under 1,200 square feet and includes a 154 square foot addition of living space on the first floor and 1,035 square feet on the second floor, which will accommodate 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The overall building height is proposed to increase from 15 feet to 26 feet. And this will result in a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home, 2,521 square feet in area. There's an existing detached garage located in the rear yard, which accommodates two vehicles. Previously, the Planning Commission reviewed this on January 22nd of this year, and at that time, you gave feedback to the applicant, including consideration of the use of casement windows, taller windows, improving the west elevation to have a more vertical proportion. The east and west elevations were noted as too plain and could be improved. And converting the stairway on the west elevation into a bay. So there's really 2 changes that were made to the plans, the first of which is the bay on the west elevation. This was not here before. It was just simply a window on the building face. It's now been converted to a bay. There is also a partial trellis on the rear elevation. Bear with me for a second. This is the trellis and a balcony that would be accessed from the master bedroom. Due to the size, there were some concerns about the floor area ratio calculations. And one of the issues that had been identified was whether or not the porch should be considered as part of the FAR. Since it has only one opening, it has this opening on the side and one on the front, and it's covered with 2 walls. There was also some confusion with respect to the FAR calculations that the applicant had provided and whether or not those need to be adjusted further based on the bay being incorporated into the redesign. So for your purposes this evening, you're here to provide design feedback to the applicant for further refinement to the project.
Do you have a suggestion on the FAR, or what do you have what you think the FAR would appropriately be, or do you need some guidance from the commission on how to interpret a regulation here?
Well, one of the questions that had been raised was whether or not this would count as FAR since it's open on one side. Jeff and I talked about it today, and it's something that we thought perhaps it might be best for you to weigh in since you're providing feedback to the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
When we looked at it, we kind of thought, well, it could go either way. You know, it has an opening. On the other hand, it does
And
have.
that's that basically that front porch, that unique,
yeah.
kind of a unique configuration of that front porch, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I think that actually the floor plan that you just scanned by, if you go back up,
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
the most useful place to look.
Yeah.
One more, that's the upper level.
Up right.
There we go.
Right there.
Yep.
Mhm.
So you can note that the portion of the porch that's to the east of the wall of the building
Right.
is arguably open on three sides.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, to the street, to the side, and to the rear.
Right.
So that portion where the cursor is located right now,
Is
I
open.
think could rightfully be not
Be
counted.
excluded.
But then if you move into the portion, you know, below the dimension line where the front door opens onto, no, you're right there, that same corner. Yep, so if your cursor is in the middle of that square right there, that whole area should be counted, because that's only open on two sides.
Yeah.
So I could support that as a reading.
Okay.
So that would change, so you calculate the FAR including all of that porch, is that right?
Actually, we didn't.
Pardon
We
you?
calculated the FAR based on the revisions that were provided by the applicant, and that did not include the porch. Given that they're at the .55, we want to be quite precise with
Right.
the FAR.
So they did not include any of the porch?
Right.
Ooh, I see. Yep. Yep. Okay.
Well, the rooms at the rear of the house are all rather generous, so, you know, a couple inches is probably going to be enough to make up the difference, but I think it's important that staff check that, independent of what we're being given. Okay.
So David, you're thinking in terms of moving the rear wall?
That would be the easiest way to do it, just make
Yeah.
the whole thing a little shorter. Pardon?
Moving in a little ways, making those rooms a
Yeah.
little smaller, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, with other porch designs, do we get into the fine art of this portion of the porch counts and this doesn't? I mean, is that something that has been kind of historically done in the past? And I guess I'm thinking of other porches that I know in Albany and how they would count, including my own, and,
Well, it's how we apply the rule of three sides.
Right.
And once three sides are covered. So if it's a porch across the entire front of the house with the two end walls open, and of course then open to the street, but it has a roof, none of that counts. If it's, you know, a corner like this, but it has no roof, then it's only covered on two sides. So it's a way of, you know, minimizing the visual impact, the bulk of the building. And when a corner is filled in and covered like that, it adds to the bulk.
it might be worth, as there are code changes made, that we define how much of that third side, if it's all, or, you know, because I think in our design guidelines, there's an encouragement to put porches on and to include porch design, and we wouldn't want to have language that would prohibit someone from, they would just roll that into their floor plan, their interior walls, because it would count against them for the floor area ratio. It's just a thought. Okay.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But if this is an opportunity to bring some of the bulk down on this particular project, then I would support what Commissioner Arkin has said.
Okay.
Yeah, I would too. I was, when I looked at the project, I was glad to see that we're looking at retaining that,
I agree.
that unique kind of porch configuration. I thought it was a little bit somewhat charming and interesting and added real interest to the front of the house, and I was glad to see that it was proposed to be retained. But I do have an issue, a concern about the very high FAR this project, and it's right up at the limit. And if it's over the limit, then we need to take steps to, in my opinion, take steps to make sure that it is reduced. Anyway, that is more in the line of discussion. Perhaps we could hear from the applicant or the applicant's representative if you want to address the commission on anything.
My name is Min Liu, and I'm an architect. The project designer is out of the country, and I'm basically sitting in the meeting for the designer. But I hear the comments, and I somewhat agree in terms of the FAR for the porch. I mean, different city have different guidelines on that item, but if this is the rules that are adopted by Albany, then we have to follow it and seek other solutions to see if we could accommodate that.
Okay.
But in terms of the design, I don't have much involvement with this project.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, good. Thanks. I don't think there's anyone else in the audience, but I'll open the public hearing if anyone would like to speak. And there's no one coming forward, so then I'll close the public hearing and bring the item back to the commission for further discussion and guidance or action. So, we've already done some of our discussion.
Well, there's one detail I've noticed that has me concerned, and that's that the front window appears to be largely, right there, that upper left-hand window seems to be somewhat melded with the existing asphalt shingle roof. And I know from experience that that's an impossible waterproofing situation. So just curious, does the window slide to the left or get smaller? So there's just one detail right there. And then on a more global level, I'm grateful that the stair bay has been added because I think it somewhat masks those bathroom windows, which on the west facade scream to me that I am bathroom windows.
Yes.
But, from the street, they're somewhat hidden by the bay.
Yeah.
And I get that you have a tub shower and you want to have the windows up high above it,
Yeah.
and privacy. So, there's some reason for that. But again, it's hidden, and that's what we suggested, and they've done that, so that's great. It's not an exciting design, but it's, in some ways, buildings that are simple and exist in the background and let others be more exciting is possibly okay as part of a dense urban fabric like we have. And again, as Doug noted earlier, they're keeping the porch, which is, I think, an excellent move that preserves the character of the existing house. So, in many ways, I'm good with this one. But I'll hear what the others have to say, and we'll see where we go. Sure, please. Would you come forward so we can hear you?
The window you point out on the left for the front facade, I think it's not an egress window, and definitely that could be reduced in size or move the window sill height to avoid that waterproofing issue.
Yeah, one thing or another is going to have to be done.
Right.
So
or
either
move it
move it-
left or move it to the left.
Move it or make it smaller?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, knowing that it's good that it's not a required egress window, because then
Right.
you could raise the sill
Yeah.
a few inches. And
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Stacy, do you have any
I
thoughts?
I do. So I'm looking at the very charming detail that has the over the porch where it has the rounded parapet. I was thinking, it's such a shame that that's not being repeated on some of these bays. That could be a nice detail. I don't know. It feels like what's been kind of extruded from the original plan is really trying hard to work with what was already there. The current bays have a roof line similar to what's there, but the second story roof, the ridge has been turned 90 degrees, and so the relationship is different. So I'm searching for some additional details that make this more integrated, I don't know, in matching what was already there, or kind of taking elements of what was already there. You know, I somewhat agree with Commissioner Moss, but at the same time, I feel like the windows are so rigid and so structured that the artistry has kind of left, and the bathroom windows I still have concerns about, but I agree that they're tucked behind. I feel like the window in the stairwell has an opportunity to maybe not be so, it's split into two casements, but maybe there's an opportunity for it to be divided, or to have some additional language applied to it that allows a transition between the vertical windows on the right and the horizontal windows on the left. And I would be interested in knowing a little bit more about what the trellis looks like over the deck. It looks like it could be a great design element. We're just not sure what it's made out of, if it's wood, if it's a stucco ledge that sticks out, if it's steel. It'd be interesting to know a little bit more about that, how it relates to the deck and material. So that's what I'm struggling with, is the gables over the, sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. The gables over the bays, still the content, the severity of the windows, the repetition of the same windows below and above, and some of the original design elements, I think, could be brought back.
So are you suggesting then, like the detailing over the front porch then, that is there now, kind of carrying that forward over the vertical punch-outs?
It's a suggestion.
Yeah.
Or even picking up, there's a shape that's created in the opening of the porch. That's something that could be applied somewhere. This is all that's left of the porch, the shapes that are in the porch. And it feels like that could be brought in somewhere. And
Well, you know, that facade, the east facade that we're looking at right here, is very close to the neighbor. It's really the other one where you're coming up the driveway that you have a lot more visual impact. And I wonder if, a repetition of the curved porch roof might be more appropriate on the stair bay. And the other thing that's worth noting here is that the front facade drawing shows the bottom of the stair bay at a much higher point than, you see where it is, where there's the little leader where it labels the stucco on the left-hand side there. So the bottom of that stairwell is closer to where the landing is, which is a half level as you climb up.
Right.
Versus where it's shown on that west facade, it's closer to floor level. And I think what's shown here on the front facade is going to look much better. That bay won't be nearly as long. But if we took that same, curved parapet and repeated that over the stairwell, that could be a nice balance that Stacy's suggesting. And
so I'm struggling because I see here that there is a little bit of a balance in the bay on the left and the bay on the right. But so that was one suggestion. Another suggestion could be to create a relief on the rear elevation that picks up some of the language of the shapes that are made on the porch. We have a big flat stucco wall. There's an opportunity to create some kind of connection to what's going on in the front of the house.
On the rear?
Right. I'm just trying to, maybe I'm struggling too hard and I should just let it go. But I appreciate Commissioner Arkin's comments on the driveway side. I think that's.
That is more visible.
It is more visible.
And David, you're saying that you think that the punch-out on the driveway side is actually going to go down farther than shown on these
No, it's,
front and rear elevations?
it's actually drawn correctly
It is.
on the front and the rear. It's just on that right side, west-facing
Oh, that's-
elevation.
okay.
It seems to go down all the way to floor level when it doesn't need to. It only needs to be below the structure of that landing, and that's going to help.
It is definitely going to help, you're right.
Well, I have to say, I appreciate your efforts, both of you as architects, in working on this and coming up with things, because I do think that this is a project that's approaching above .45 for sure. It'll probably be right at our maximum FAR. And I'm interested in design excellence here. I think that it is appropriate to work on, think about some of these details and how we might make some other steps on the facade to make it look a little better. It kind of bothers me even looking at the existing house, that you had that very interesting and varied porch kind of facility, then a fairly plain-looking rectangular window in the front, the front bay window. I think there are other houses in Albany that would use an odd-shaped window, an odd-shaped custom window at that front window that would more or less replicate some of the curves and variations of the porch entries. But in this case, it doesn't. It's just a square, a straight rectangular window. They've replicated that on the second floor. Bit of a hard one.
Well, yeah, I think it is a tough conversation to have.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was any exploration to additional texture or,
Well, I think we talked about the possibility of taking the second floor windowsill line and, running that around the
That would
perimeter
help.
of the building as a way of breaking up those facades, or some horizontal line at some point, which is a common feature in two-story stucco houses. The bays are breaking it up in the opposite direction.
They
I think
are.
that's a device that we discuss, one being able to use. So, and given that those are, near the front of the building and are going to serve that purpose, I'm not feeling like both would be wise in this case. And, as I said, sometimes, a simple building,
Yeah.
amidst a busy streetscape is just fine. And I'm kind of leaning towards that reading in this instance.
color might be really important on this house. Like the color palette might be the design.
Probably right. I think you're right.
And in that way, the gable roof over the stairway bay
Yeah.
is probably just fine as well,
Yeah.
because you just
Yeah.
don't see the two sides at the same time.
That's right. You don't.
Well, so tonight, are we looking to,
We could
To
approve
move
it. We
on
do
this,
have
or
draft
is-
findings.
as the
think-
applicant's not,
Yeah, we were actually looking just for feedback
Okay.
to give to the applicant. We weren't expecting action to be taken this evening.
Okay.
so the two comments I would make is that I feel that the window in the stairwell has an opportunity to be something really quite beautiful, and that it could be designed in such a way that, like I said earlier, would transition and help transition from the vertical windows on the right to horizontal windows on the left, depending on the design of the mullions or muntins or whatever they chose. And, I'd want to look at the site map, but there could be an opportunity to extend the deck on the rear elevation to help break that up as well. I don't know if that's of interest to them. But finding out a little bit more about what the trellis detail is I'd want to know a little bit more about that.
I think that's a reasonable request. They're covering more backyard area if the deck and trellis get bigger, and with the garage back there, it could add up to a lot of coverage. And at the same time, I'm less concerned about the rear of the house than what's fronting the street.
Agree.
Okay, is that good direction?
I think I have a fair amount of direction.
And maybe a potential color palette.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the applicant's representative, I wasn't aware that the applicant was out of the country. Will you be assuming any design revisions, or will he be doing that when he returns?
I'm not quite sure myself.
Oh, okay.
I have very limited involvement in this project. But if there's comments and requirements to meet, then that require another design review or design revision. But if, of course, anybody would like to have approval with conditions that could move forward the project. And I appreciate the comments and I understand they're very constructive. I could see that the potential, as an architect, I look at the bay at the staircase, that it could be improved. The window is a little bit oversized. And the bottom of it, I think that could be tapered to my preference, with a 45-degree or some kind of bracket to add some interest. Or some trims that could separate or provide some division to the vertical. That same method could apply to the other side of the facade to provide more interest.
Okay, so we can relay our comments then to the architect, and then the architect can also be in contact with Ann.
Definitely.
And I think an important comment too is that we're pretty sure that most of that porch will be included in the FAR calculation, which means that some other changes need to be made to bring the FAR down to 0.55 or below. Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah. So, okay.
All right. Thanks.
Are there any other comments that I thought I had about that rear trellis that's been adding on? Is there a support issue with that? Can it just cantilever out, or does it need posts, or?
You know,
I
at the
think it'll be
last,
engineered. I'm
the
sorry.
last hearing, that question was asked of the applicant, and he indicated that they did not need support posts to support the balcony.
They plan to cantilever out of the floor
Yeah.
framing.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're simply
I
continuing
think-
this.
So I think we've
Not
given the
Not
guidance
even
that we can give. And we'll continue the item then to date uncertain, depending on when the architect gets back and can work on it with the owner and bring it back to the commission. All right, good. Thank you very much. So I think we should call Phil back in. Decide how to proceed next. We still have a question about 1111 Cornell.
Well, we could pick up 7B.
7B, let me grab my agenda. 7B, oh yeah, yes, we could. Yeah, that's not the windows, we did the windows, yeah.
So we're looking for some direction from the commission regarding wireless facility antenna replacement. You've looked at 3 different zoning clearance applications in the past year. It is a ministerial act, so when you look at that, it's a building permit application. We have been taking them directly to you instead of approving them at the staff level out of concern for an appeal being filed. Our interest in doing that was basically to make the process transparent and go through the formal hearing. However, since we've done 3 of these, we're wondering, going forward, if the commission would feel more comfortable if it's processed as a zoning clearance at the staff level, since it is a ministerial decision.
Are those done in the form of an administrative hearing?
Typically not. A zoning clearance is done where, we receive the application. I don't believe we do the notification. We obviously do that for Planning and Zoning Commission.
But there are certain items that do have an administrative hearing, is that
Yeah,
correct?
administrative design review and minor use permits both have an administrative hearing with public hearing notices and that sort of thing.
Okay. But this does not fall into that category of review.
Right.
Is that right?
So these are,
And that's in part because while it is a zoning clearance, it's tied to a building permit as opposed to planning entitlement.
Okay, gotcha.
if a wireless provider wanted to replace antennas, it's usually because the new antennas are somewhat different in shape or certainly in technology.
It's primarily in technology. I think the last 3 applications that we've looked at, if there has been a size issue, it's been by a matter of inches.
A few
Yeah.
inches then, yeah. The last one was, I think, 3 inches, 3.5 inches smaller, I believe. I shouldn't say that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might have even been,
They were-
yeah,
They
it
were
was a
very
matter of
close in
inches.
size, yeah.
Yeah, well, I would suggest that when, the change is less than a foot in any dimension, the number of antennas is the same, and the, power or the service is similar to the existing, then it's really, it falls into that maintenance category. And if it's, a major change outside of those parameters, then it's a design review and zoning clearance matter. That's the guidance I might suggest.
On the last one we had, that was certainly my reaction when I read the staff report. It was like, why is this coming? Why are we doing this? It was clear out of an abundance of caution. And then we had a hearing, and we had quite a few comments on the hearing. So the public wanted to speak, but in the end, those comments were more, had to do with the operation of the antenna and the parking of the Verizon trucks, and all of those were issues that had to do with the lease and the lease conditions. They weren't issues of planning issues or zoning regulation issues. So I guess it still stands. My initial reaction was, well, this probably doesn't need to be coming to PUC.
It's tricky, I think, because it's still drawing a crowd, and it's still an opportunity for people to come and speak about this, antennas. So my feeling is that Albany's not ready to allow that to be an process administratively. But having said that, I think I agree with Commissioner Arkin, and I would add that there was one that we were voting on that it was a co-location. They were replacing the lower ones, which were under our height limit, but the upper ones were not. And so I would say as long as it's within our height limit, that it could be approved by staff. But if it's above the height limit, then I think that that's a conversation that we'll want to have about possibly asking if they could change the pole height. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear what other people's thoughts are about this being an opportunity for people to come and still speak about this. And it seems like there's there's movement in Albany to encourage speaking about these items, and I wouldn't want it to be, I wouldn't want to close that by shifting it to administration approval. So I'm curious what your thoughts are.
My 2 cents is I think that I would like to see them come in front of us, even if they're on the consent calendar. One of the issues, and I don't know if this is right, I'm just going to ask you this. It used to be that you were entitled to one appeal. So if it's an administrative review, your appeal comes to us. If it's our decision, the appeal is to the city council. And I think that that's a healthy way to keep it, going to the city council on disputes like this rather than ending up in our laps, because they're eventually the ones that are going to have to make policy on this.
Let them hear about it.
Well, if its appeal goes to them, it goes to them. But
Yeah, I think your suggestion, someone made it, that they be a consent calendar item, because it's, you know, a very minor, you know, element, is a good one. And if no one wants to discuss it, we may or may not choose to discuss it ourselves, but at least it's been noticed. And Phil's point is a good one, that if there is going to be one appeal, it ought to be to the city council. I don't know if that's the case, but...
I think it is the case, but...
Okay. Then that's a good reason right there.
Right.
Okay.
Have any of these been appealed?
They have not. We've had actually 3 in the past year. We had 1 in 2012. They have not been appealed to the city council.
I'll go along with that, but somewhat reluctantly. I'm kind of inclined to stick with my initial reaction on the last one, which was like, why is this coming to us? I mean, it was a very small change, and it was a replacement of an existing facility. And I thought it was, adding time to the applicant and being a hardship on the applicant to have to go through the public hearing process.
We could wait one
But-
year and try it as a consent calendar item and see,
Yeah.
and then shift it to administrate, or 3 more approvals, or whatever is determined to be the right.
Well, you may have one coming to you in the near future, which is what precipitated this
There will be,
going on the
be
agenda.
another one then?
Yeah.
Try it on the consent calendar then. Okay. All right. So I'm sure that the architect or applicant for 1111 Cornell is not going to appear tonight for whatever problem. I hope it isn't serious.
There's
So-
nobody here to open a public hearing to take testimony, so they wouldn't even bother at this point.
Should we continue this to,
I
The
think we
next
should,
hearing on
yeah,
April
we'll
23rd?
continue it
To a date
to,
certain. Okay, I move that we continue 1111 Cornell to a date certain as the next B&Z meeting.
meeting? Okay, all right. Is that okay? Is the agenda so full for the next meeting?
no, we can accommodate that on the
I can
next
accommodate
agenda.
it, all right.
Yep.
Well, I'm not going to be here.
You won't be here, okay.
But Nick will be here, so we will have a quorum.
We will have
Okay,
a quorum.
okay, good. I believe May 5th, 14th meeting? Yeah, I will not be here.
Okay.
Here's the drawings.
Is there anything else on the agenda for tonight? I think we've covered it, all right. Let us note that it's 8:20. Okay. With that, then, I will adjourn the April 9th meeting of the P&Z. Thank you very much.